Hi guys, it's Samantha. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing a subgenre, not a book, a genre. We're switching it up today. Basically, I had a romance era in 2022. I do have a romance era wrap-up video that I will link down below. It's all the books that I read in 2022 that were romance, my thoughts on them, best, worst, mediocre, ones that I would highly recommend, ones that I would not. But it's linked down below. Basically what happened in 2022 is that I had never read romance consistently until 2022, and I really just like went headfirst into it. So I'm talking smutty Kindle, book talk, rom-com romances, contemporary romances, historical romances. We did it all last year, which was great. I loved it. I found another genre that I really appreciate. I found more authors that I really loved, and I kind of want to recreate that this year. But instead of doing romance genre, kind of wanted to do dark academia. So this is all over BookTube, all over Instagram. People love dark academia. And I have not read one single book, except Ninth House. I have read Ninth House. One other book that has been dark academia. And I think I'm ready to go on the journey. I'm ready. So basically this is just introducing the vlog. My first vlog for my dark academia era. And the first vlog, the book that I'm going to be reading, is the OG, the one that started it all. The one that I see on everybody's favorite list, favorite shelf, annotated. People love taking photos of this and putting it on Instagram and talking about it. And that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't know much about the synopsis for this book besides what I've heard, and basically it's just about a group of kids in Harvard that, I think it's Harvard. Ooh. I'm gonna say Harvard. And there's a murder, there's a death, and they investigate, and it gets dark and creepy. And I'm here for it. So grab a snack, grab a drink, and we're gonna be reading this. I'm gonna be telling you what I think. Alright, bye. See you in the next clip. I will see you in the next clip. So last time I saw you, I was starting this book, and now I'm 190 pages in, and I had to convince myself to stop reading, come in here and give you guys an update because I'm obsessed. I understand why people love this book so freaking much. Yeah, so the writing, exquisite, absolutely exquisite. It's rich and thoughtful and like well put together. The characters are intriguing. They are, I don't know, everyone always states that like all these characters are like bad people, like unlikable people. And I'm not quite there yet, I don't think, because I'm only at 190 pages. I'm not quite there yet. There are a couple characters and I'm like, yeah, you have issues. But I'm not quite at the point where like all of them do. I am absolutely in love with this. I get why people like dark academia. I get it. It's so, and that's the thing about this book that I kind of want to mention is that like this is rich writing. Like this is just it's not flowery. It's not necessarily like full of prose or anything but it's like rich. It's like very blunt, but you get the image, like you get the scenery, you get the characters from very few words. But you can just imagine so much, and I love it, and I absolutely love it. I have started to get to the point where I'm just like, I wish the characters would just come forth and tell you what's up. The coyness from Henry, one of the main characters, it's getting a little bit much. I just need to know what happened already, so that we can move on and finish, the rest of the book. But basically, point is, I'm absolutely loving this. I understand why everyone loves it. I understand why it's so hyped. I understand why it's so highly recommended. It's great so far. And I wanted to make sure I gave you guys an update because it is so great. Like, I don't want to stop reading. And I was like, I'm supposed to be doing a vlog for this. And if I don't stop and give you guys like a 3-minute clip of me talking about it, you guys will get nothing. So, yeah, I'm probably going to read a lot of this today. It is a cold, gross day outside. It has been for like the past 3 days, which is probably why I've read so much these past 3 days. And I'm just gonna dive right into this for the rest of the day, and we'll see how far we get and if I give you guys another update. Like I said, the weather's been awful, so I've been doing a lot of baking and cooking and cleaning the house. So nothing too interesting for a vlog. There's not much that we can do right now. So yeah, I am going to an event with my husband later today, maybe, if it doesn't get canceled. And I'll have to show you the fit for it. But other than that, yeah, I'm gonna go sit back down. I'm gonna eat some lunch and read more. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Okay, here's the outfit check. I promised you guys. I got this all going up in the front. Feel very like fancy librarian, which I guess is the vibe that I strive for. But okay, I gotta go wrangle my kids and get them in clothes, and then I will talk to you guys later. Bye. You ever have one of those days where it just like feels endless and you like never actually get anything done? You know what I mean? I just get done cooking in the kitchen, and I come and I sit down because I'm going to talk about a book, and I realize that the bed is still unmade from me cleaning sheets yesterday, and my cat threw up on the floor. So yeah, that's where we're at today. Lord help me. Anyways, I finished it. And you just watched me annotate it. So I found like what I like to do with annotating is that when I'm actually reading the book, I just like to make like little notes or like make little marks in my book, and then later on when I have the time to sit down and actually like be on a flat surface and use a ruler and everything else, I like to underline. And then I also like to color code my tabs after I'm done reading it, because I don't know what's really going to be like significant in the book until I get done reading it. So that way I can actually make sure that like when I notice that I'm underlining a lot of things about characters, or like I'm underlining a lot of things that would be considered like quotes and stuff like that, I come back and I do this. But sorry. But basically I liked it a lot. I don't want to give it a rating because I would want to give it a 5, but I feel like it's not quite there yet, but it's worthy of a 5. So I can't give it a rating because I really don't know what I would rate this, or if this is like a rateable book. But as far as like my first book in the dark academia setting, this is a winner. I understand the hype. This is definitely a winner. Let's talk. Let's talk about it a little bit. Basically, this is about a scholarship kid who goes to not Yale or Harvard like I thought, but Hampton University that is located in the middle of want to say Washington, like not Washington, I'm sorry, I think it's Virginia, out in the middle of Virginia, middle of nowhere. It's a very small college, university, and he gets into a class ran by a Julian, Professor Julian, I forget what his last name is, and it's a Greek classics class. It's one of the only universities that carry like a classics undergraduate degree, but that is what he goes for, and not what he goes there for, but like that's where he ends up. And there is a group of students in this class when he joins, and it kind of gets really hairy from there. This group of students, let me tell you, rich people problems galore. These are all very rich people, which is interesting because Richard, our main character, is a scholarship kid, so you're really getting like his perspective of these people who are like so disconnected from the real world and disillusioned to like what's actually important in life. It's not a spoiler to tell you that they end up killing somebody. It's literally in the prologue. So this group of students end up killing somebody, and their ringleader, Henry, is so like I said, disconnected from the world. In fact, Richard, within the first prologue, explains to the reader that like they killed this person, and literally on Sunday they sat down for dinner. And like they were upset because they had to move their dinner from Friday to Sunday, and one of them was worried that he wouldn't have asparagus for the dinner. Like that's how disconnected they are from the real world, which is really interesting. I did make a couple notes. I think that's kind of like the essence of this dark academia book, but really what makes this a dark academia book is the writing itself. This is a very richly written, like I've said before, the metaphors, the imagery, it is just top notch. You can't get any better than this book. In fact, I'm going to force you to listen to me do a dramatic reenactment of some of these. So let's talk about imagery. Richard just walked into the room. The group of students are sitting there, and he says, "Startled, I turned to see Henry sitting at the other end of the porch. He was without a jacket, but otherwise immaculate for such an ungodly hour. Trousers, knife pressed, his white shirt crisp with starch. On the table in front of him were book and papers, a steaming espresso pot, and a tiny cup, and I was surprised to see an unfiltered cigarette burning in an ashtray." So like just that small paragraph, you're getting this really dark, handsome, brooding man, white starched shirt, early in the morning, so you can imagine like dew and like the sun rising, and there's a table in front of him stacked with books and papers, and he has coffee in front of him and a cigarette, an unfiltered cigarette in the ashtray. Like I just love all of that. I think there's another one that I wanted to share. Oh no. Okay, here's a metaphor. Let me talk about the metaphors in this book. They are amazing. Like I don't know what sort of genius Donna Tartt, like how long they must have sat down and thought about these metaphors. Here's one where he is talking about looking at Henry, like seeing Henry, and he says, "I had a childlike faith in him, and as confidently as Dr. Watson observing the action of his more illustrious friend, I waited for the design to manifest itself." Get out of here. Get out of here. Okay. While I'm on a roll. Another metaphor. In a certain sense, it was simply play acting, but at Hampton, where creative expression was valued above all else, play acting was itself a kind of work, and people went about their grief as seriously as small children will sometimes play quite grimly and without pleasure in make-believe offices and stores. It just sets the tone so perfectly. It sets the tone so perfectly, and it's so beautiful. There's an interaction between two characters I kind of want to go over as well, because I think it really plays on the fact that like this Greek classic class and like that whole setting really sets the tone for this entire book. There are so many references to Greek tragedies, to Greek myths, and then like not only that, but there's a point where they speak Greek to each other in order to like talk in front of people without being like recognized. But basically, yeah, so the writing in itself is really what makes this like a star. Not only that, but the foreshadowing in this book, especially upon going back and annotating, beautiful. perfect, immaculate. I absolutely loved it. It makes it better, and I think that this is definitely a book that you could reread and then read again and still get more and more out of it. And I love those types of books. Those books are the ones that are become like classics. This is like a modern classic at this point, and I feel like that's very well deserved. It's well deserved. Something else, like I said, I really want to talk about Henry because I think he's kind of like the main star of the group. Like I said, he's kind of the leader. He, first off, is compared, like I said, the foreshadowing, the writing, like it's all very intertwined. Henry is compared to Satan and Togo, which I think I pronounced that correctly, but basically he was like an African leader. He was a leader of an African country. I don't know which one, but basically he's a genocidal maniac. But the fact that they compared, Richard himself compared his friend to Satan and him is very interesting. That was the other thing too. With Henry, literally with Henry, rich people problems, a disassociation with real issues. So in this book, like I said, Richard is kind of a scholarship kid. Over winter break, the university shuts down and they basically kick out all their students. Richard has no place to go, so he ends up in what he thought would be kind of like a border house with this hippie guy. But what ends up happening is he's in the middle of a Virginia winter, which from my understanding is super cold. All right, and he's living in a shack without a roof. So he's literally dying from exposure. Is basically what's happening. There's about like 5 chapters in here. Richard is dying from exposure, and you get to see like this downward spiral of him. And Henry just pops up out of nowhere, and I remember he's like, Richard walks into the room. Henry is standing in his room, and he's like looking out onto this river because his not only does his room have a hole in the roof, but it also looks out onto a river, and like the wall is gone or something like that. But Henry's looking out, and he like turns around, and he's like, well, Richard, what have you been doing? Like, this looks like the Parthenon. It's so romantic or whatever. And Richard is literally dying from exposure and the inability to put a roof over his head. And Henry's comparing his living situation to the Parthenon. Like, get out of here, please, sir. So now that I've raved, let me do like a little bit of ranting. Let me tell you the downsides to this book. This is why it's not exactly a 5-star. It definitely drags on. This is almost a 550 page book. This is a 550 page book. And it definitely, like, Donna Tartt drives home all the messages. There's maybe 100 pages dedicated to discussing one of the member of this group's family. And like, I didn't need 20 interactions to understand how they're dysfunctional. I really only needed 1, but she writes like 20 different interactions about this family. Like I said, there's several chapters dedicated to Richard's living situation in the winter. It was kind of unnecessary. Like I said, it was just really almost repetitive. It got to a point of being really repetitive. I think another thing that's very irritating about this book, but understandable, is that everyone in this book plays coy. Richard is definitely almost like a third person perspective in this book. So he's narrating the book, but he's like seeing conversations across the room, if that makes sense. So like Henry and Camilla are having a conversation, but they're across the room and he can't hear, but he can see that they're having a conversation. And that's the perspective that you're getting. And then Henry will come over and talk to Richard, but because Henry is so smart and so uppity, he plays very coy about like what they were saying. And so us as readers, that's what we're getting. And eventually that gets really irritating. And I know that's for a reason. I know that it's like Donna Tartt, once again, driving home the message of these people being so snotty and so snobby and so like they're like aristocrats or whatever. But that was a very interesting aspect of this book. Like I said, it can't be quite 5 stars because it's not, like I said, there definitely were some downsides that kind of like for me. But it is a beautiful book. It is a very, very beautiful book, as you can tell from all the annotations I did. I am going to leave you with one passage because, like I said, the Greek in this book is very intriguing. I think it says for the Dark Academia. I don't know. I know this is the OG, so I don't know if other Dark Academia subgenre books have Greek like this, but I know that I loved it. Let me see. Here's an interaction with one member of the group to Richard. Like, they're speaking Greek in front of other people in order to keep what happened a little bit of a secret. It's on page 383 on this in this series if you actually want to go through and read it. I kind of paraphrased, hopefully to give you a little bit better understanding of how this interaction goes down. But like, she's concerned with the dishonor of her son having to do with wine. But rights are for the living men, not for the dead. For she is a wicked woman. Rather, she grieves for the shame which has fallen on her house. What shame is this? She seeks to show that his corpse does not hold wine. And why, pray tell, does she care? Because there is talk among the citizens it is shameful for a young man to die while drunk. I just love it. I just love it. And then last but not least, I will leave you with this one sentence. Disordered vase of flowers. I'm never gonna forget the way that he described a vase of flowers. That Donna Tartt described, I should say, a vase of flowers as disordered. Like, okay. Alright, I'm done. I love it. I love it. I love this book. The writing was immaculate. The imagery, the metaphors, the foreshadowing was perfection. Honestly, a modern classic at this point. As my first dark academia book of 2023, I would say, or of my life, I would say this was a success. If you want to stay tuned, go ahead and subscribe. Comment down below another book, a dark academia subgenre book that you think I would enjoy or should read. The next one is If We Were Villains. That will be the next episode of this journey that we go on. I wanted to read both books together, but like I said, this ended up being like a 550-page book, and I ran out of time. And I wanted to make sure that I got this up and going for you guys. So here we are. Hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye.